शिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्. Om. Dear friends, we have come to a little difficult part of the fourth chapter. In the first part, Krishna introduced himself as an avatara. And he said, if you can develop those qualifications to be able to understand what an avatara is, you will be able to come to him. In the same time, he introduced about the four varnas, how although he did it, he does not do anything himself. Now we come to the real title of this chapter, what is Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga, to understand the intricacies of what is this inaction in action. So this is really the highlight of the Bhagavad Gita of the fourth chapter. Dr. Suman, it is your time.
Yes, sir. Am I audible?
Very clearly, please go ahead.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Vita Raga Bhaya Krodhaha Manmaya Mam Upashritaha Bahavo Gnana Tapasaha Puta Madbhava Magataha. Meaning, so having resorted to me, free from attachment, fear and anger, absorbed in me and purified by Gnana Yoga, many have attained my nature. So elaborating, realization of God has two stages. One is the Saguna Ishvara and then is the Nirguna Ishvara. Even in Saguna Ishvara, we have the Eka Rupa Ishvara Darshanam or Gnanam, that is appreciating Lord in one form. This is useful because we can replace Lord as someone we want him to be it our own father, mother, child or guru. This helps in emotional health and we can talk to God. Expanding it further is the Vishwarupa Ishvara Bhakti, where Bhagavan has got the whole universe as his form. Everybody has to go through the three stages, Eka Rupam to Aneka Rupam to Nirguna Ishvara. However, this has to be a gradual process. So what are the stages a seeker will go through is talked about in this sloka. Vita Raga Bhaya Krodhaha, that is the first stage. Have Saguna Ishvara Bhakti and follow Karma Yoga. Dedicate our duties to the Lord and accept all situation as Ishvara Prasada. Having a Karma Yoga way of life, we get rid of the unhealthy ways. So what are the unhealthy ways? That is Raga Bhaya Krodhaha. Raga means attachment, worldly attachment. But living in an uncertain world where anything can happen anytime, uncertainty, we should shift our attachment from the world of God to world of Ishvara Raga. But where is God? Bhagavan is here itself. So it is world dependence to God dependence to self-dependence, where I discover Bhagavan as myself. So when the emotional dependence or raga comes down, bhayam also comes down, because fear is directly proportional to attachment. And when ragam and bhayam comes down, then krodha will also come down. Now coming to manmaya, it means obsessed, having an intense obsession to Godhood. Here Godhood is nothing but our own higher nature, superior, healthy nature. That means when we say attain Godhood, it means you should attain your fullest growth. God is an external goal, but ultimately Godhood is my own secure self, healthy self, contented self. Therefore, manmaya means you convert a sick mind full of raga, dvesha, kama, krodha into a mind full of compassion, love, security. And that inner conversion is called attainment of Godhood. But attaining this is not very easy. There are lots of obstacles and problems, and there will be temptations. And for that, we need the support of the Lord. No doubt, effort is must, but we also need Ishvara Anugraha. And that is the word Mam Upashritaha, taking my support, surrendering to me. So now effort and engine both are ready. Then is the direction. The first direction is managing Raga Dvesha, convert all desires to non-binding desires. Then is Bhaya Krodha. How do you handle these four? By wisdom and devotion. An impure mind is a slave of these four. A wise mind is a master of these four. Next stage is attaining knowledge, and we have to work hard to attain knowledge. It is Gnana Tapas. It requires austerity. Handling Raga, Dvesha, Kama, Krodha is only partial purification. For complete purification, we need to remove self-ignorance by Gnana Yoga. So what are the impurities? The grossest impurity is Raga, Dvesham. The subtler impurity is extrovertedness, and the finest impurity is Agnanam. So the first layer is Malam, the second layer is Vikshepa, and the third layer is Avaranam. So how do you remove all this? Karma Yoga will remove Malam, Upasana will remove Vikshepa, and Gnana Yoga will remove Avaranam. But it has to be in the same order. You cannot change the order. Therefore, Bahavo Gnana Tapasaha Putaha. Many people have purified themselves totally by finally practicing Gnana Yoga. And by removing all the impurities, what did they find? Madbhava Magata. They did not meet or reach God. They discovered I minus impurity is God. God plus impurity is I. Madbhava Magata, my nature, which means Satyam, Nanam, Anandam, Brahma, the nature of fullness, nature of security, nature of Purnatvam. So to attain this, we have to go through the 4 stages. Stage 1 is spiritual goal is must become a top priority. Getting a direction in life is the stage 1. Stage 2 is taking the help of the Lord and surrendering to the Lord. Stage 3 is purification of the mind by reducing the impact of raga, dvesha, bhaya, krodha. And stage 4 is study scriptures and gain self-knowledge. Hari Om.
Thank you, Suman. That was superb.
Thank you, sir.
You know, a verse which looks so benign, but if you go through what our teacher has said, the whole of Jnana Yoga is in this particular verse, and which you have very nicely, very crisply in the available time brought out. You know, that is the beauty of this interaction. Just listening to one verse, we have got enough wisdom, enough sadhanas for the day. For those who do not know Dr. Suman is a neurosurgeon working with us. He's the recent addition to our team of neurosurgeons. We now go to Dr. Ravi Shankar. Dr. Ravi, it's your time.
Hari Om, sir.
Hari Om.
The 13th shloka of chapter 4 goes like this. Chatur varnam maya shrishtam guna karma vibhagashah tasya kartaramapi mam vidhi yat karma kartaram avyayam. Up to the 12th shloka, there has been a description of the nature and the rahasya of the avatara. From the 13th shloka, there is a description now of the Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga, and this is the main topic. Pada Parichaya. Chatur Varnyam is the 4 divisions of the human society. Maya is by me, Shrishtam is created. Guna Karma Vibhaga. Guna plus Karma is used as a basis for this division. It's very specific. Guna and Karma, not the birth. Tasya is of that. Kartaram apimam. Although I am the father or the creator of this vibhaga, vidhi, may you know, Paramatma says, akartaram, I am the non-doer, and avyayam, I am unaffected or unchanged. And this is the beauty of the second line. Though he has created it, why he says that he is unaffected. Now, karma has a side effects, and these side effects are like antibiotics. You take vitamins. Karma is also sticky, like a jackfruit, and you can use a coconut oil to get rid of it. Gita gives a beautiful example, and Krishna Paramatma says, Jnanam is the only way to remove the side effects of karma. So he says he was born in the jail, and he could not convince Duryodhana what to do. There was a failure on his part, but he was untouched by the karma or the karma phala. And this is the explanation of the second line of the shloka 13. So Krishna Paramatma says, practice safe distancing from karma. So you have to maintain a distance from karma as well as karma phala. Varnashrama has been born out of self-intent. Grahastha is the karma pradhana ashrama, Vanaprastha is the upasana pradhana ashrama, sannyasa is the jnana pradhana ashrama. And society requires all these varnashramas for self-harmony. It's just the right thing. Swami Param beautifully classifies this Chatur Varnya by 3 angles. One is the Guna Vibhaga, the Karma Vibhaga, and the birth related. So Guna Vibhaga, a person can be Guna Brahmana, Guna Kshatriya, Guna Vaishya, Guna Shudra based on the personality, the character, or the Swabhava. And based on the profession or the work, there could be a Karma Brahmana, Kshatriya, Karma Vaishya, or Karma Shudra. And Jati, the word is Jan, Jayate iti Jati, this is based on birth. Veda condemns it, and that was not the intention of Bhagavan to have the shloka. The gunas could be Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, we know it, and we have the combinations of these gunas. Sattva Pradhana, Rajas and Tamas could be contemplative, intellectual, or a thinking person. Rajas, Pradhana, and Sattva and Tamas could be an extrovert, selfless activity for society like a Kshatriya Swabhava. And the Rajas, Tamas, and Sattva activities could be those who are selfish, and they say it's the Vaishya Swabhava. And the Tamas being a Pradhana, and Rajas and the Sattva being very less, could be a sleepy or an unskilled kind of a person. So based on the profession, a karma brahmana would be a teacher who teaches both para and apara, like all teachers. A karma kshatriya would be an administrator or law and order for the society. A karma vaishya would be for all maintenance of society. And a karma shudra would do all such activities that help the above three. So karma and guna may vary. And this is very clearly shown even in the Purusha Suktam, where the shloka goes, Mukham kimasya kau bahu ka vurupadya uchyete brahmanoha mukhamasit bahu rajanyah krutaha uru tadaita yadveshaha padmyagam shudro ajayata. So they say this based on karma. It is not the authority given that shudra has been born from the feet. It is the importance given that the work is done by that part. Gradation by birth, jati all are equal, karma all are equal, but gunas, brahmana is more than the kshatriya, than the vaishyas, than the shudras. So that is based on the gunas. So guna brahmana continues to be worshipped because of the sattva pradhana. Guna kshatriya does selfless activity. Guna vaishya has to go 3 steps, and the guna shudra has not even entered this area of knowledge. So the choice, we have no choice of jati. We have a choice of the gunas, because from tamas we can go to karma, through karma to rajas, and from rajas we can go to sattva through upasana, and from sattva we can move forwards with jnanam. So look at these gunas and we know where we stand. Now Drona moved on to become a warrior, though he was a brahmana, and Vishwamitra moved on to dhyana, though he was a kshatriya. So guna karma is the most important. Adi Shankara in his Bhashya says, the Purva Pakshi says, you are the creator you mentioned, O Lord. How can you not be a bhokta if you are a creator of such a division? And the explanation given is from the standpoint of Maya, yes, I am a creator. However, I am not an agent and I am therefore not subject to samsara. Now there is a relative quantity of guna dependence, and based on these quantity, not the quality, the quantity of guna, that depends upon the karma which has been done in the previous births. And based on that, we have a percentage of the rajas or the sattva or the tama pradhana. And based on this, we are responsible for having our gunas in the present phase. There is another beautiful way that this has been described, and that is cosmic intelligence gives rise to cosmic energy, and there is cosmic organization in man, such gunas, and the pure consciousness is absolutely pure, but like a light, white light has 7 vibgyor, the pure gunas become differentiated into human quality, and that is the nature of the cosmic plan. In Gita, Prakriti has been differentiated, and based on that, gunas is being supervised by Lord, but the Lord himself is not attached to it. The shloka 31, Swadharma, which describes Prakriti in the chapter 2, and the shloka 24 of the chapter 3 also describes about the Prakriti, and the shlokas 41 to 46 of the chapter 18 very clearly mentions Brahmana Kshatriya Vaishya Shudra cha Parantapa Karmani Pratibhavati Swabhava Guna is what has been the most important. It is not through birth. So if we understand this much, I think we are very clear that we are dealing more with the guna, which has been very clearly mentioned here. Nirvana Shatakam also highlights this point. Namrutyur na shokam na jati bhedaha chidananda rupam shivoham shivoham. Hari Om sir.
Hari Om, Dr. Ravi Shankar. As usual, masterly presentation, full justice to the verse of the Gita, and also to clarify all the various misconceptions that come with the caste system. You did enough references to be able to clarify and present it in a very beautiful manner. Bhaskar, it's your time.
Hari Om. Audible, sir?
Not very clear.
Hari Om.
Hari Om, go ahead.
Reciting the verse. Namam karmani limpanti name karma phalasrubha iti mam uvijanati karma birna sabhadyate. Here, Sri Krishna professes that karma does not taint me, nor do I deserve the fruits of action. The sadhaka who knows me by this way is not bound by karma. Here, Bhagavan, we all know, there is absence of ego in spite of his acts of creation, sustenance, and dissolution. No karma phala, it's akartha. Here, Lord Krishna projects himself as an example. Apparently, this Krishna I is to be conceived as an individual I. Suppose in the social context, drawing the background of Newton's law, that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Yes, we too believe that every karma generates punya or papa, eventually leaving a subtle impression on the subconscious, creating samskara, and the imprints of memory landing us in bondage or samsara. Supposedly, we take Jnana Marga, the path of freedom, knowledge, and emancipation, like the life of Buddha, leaving behind all duties in pursuit of truth. Well, very few have this who can adopt. In this verse, for a sadhaka, what is the message or plan of action suggested by Sri Krishna? Let us follow the key words, karma phale, na spraha. Work hard, but without longing for results of action. Be an akarta, absence of ego and doership. Doer, non-doer. This is a very good metaphor. From karmi, you become a karma yoga. Can we draw some examples from our daily life to correlate this particular verse? Parents doing their respective duties without expectation. The other thing, in the Vesti level, the organs in our body performing without any order from us. So it's going on by itself, without any expectations, without any whisper. In the Vesti level, in the Samasti level, we know that pure consciousness transformed itself into the world, which is a drama, which we are witnessing. There again, everything is happening automatically. So then why we are attached to ourselves? And so this non-doer doership must be adopted. So to sum up this verse, we just have to know that this is a very subtle ego buster. And let us endorse, just do it without a doership tag. Surrender the individual I-ness to the supreme I-ness. Hari Om.
Thank you. Thank you, Bhaskar, for a clear explanation. Any number of times it is worth listening to this again and again, that how we need to be to do our very best and not expect the results of our action. Thank you. Sachin, it is your time.
Let me set the time, sir. Can you hear me, sir? Yeah. Kim karma kim karmeti kavayo petra mohita tatte karma pravakshami yajnatva mokshase shubhat. So actually, the first last three verses are very loaded. And I think I'll just take a little bit back step, because so many things have been taught in the last three verses by Krishna to Arjuna. As we all know, this is in the battlefield. So there is an action there. And in the second chapter, where Arjuna completely surrendered to Krishna, that's the time when Krishna started giving him the advice. First, it was about do the karma, do the action. Then in the second, when he came to the end of the second chapter, he introduced Jnana Yoga. There, Arjuna got confused and he said whether I should follow Karma Yoga or Jnana Yoga, or directly I can go to Jnana Yoga. There again, in third chapter, he clarified you have to follow Karma Yoga. And then what is Karma Yoga? But in this verse and the subsequent verses, the basically 4.18 to 4.24 are very important verses. My verse here, he suggests that what is actually karma, and now he's taking him to more understanding and giving the jnana of karma. I will repeat, this following verses are actually the most important verses, and in this 4.18 verse after me, it will be telling about the understanding of action, the jnana of karma. So coming to the verse proper, he's saying that kim karme, kim akarme. So you have to, what is action and what is actionlessness, or what is inaction. So this is a big topic. It is a big understanding to be sought for, because even the kavayaha, the big sages, they are also deluded. And we also know that till long duration, everyone thought that the sun is actually revolving around the earth and not the earth revolving around the sun, until unless Copernicus, who really introduced this term, and for many years he was actually prosecuted. He was actually he was not taken into the consideration. Same way, when Krishna says that Arjuna, who is actually doing the action? Are you doing the action? Who is that I doing the action? And suddenly, if Krishna says this even to us, who is the doer, then we might have we might have to think over it. We might have to go to a lot of satsanga to understand what is the real action and who is doing the action. So Swamiji also explains it might take 25 years from now to understand the scriptures and know the real doer, real I. So even the sages are having deluded for a long time to really understand who is the doer. Therefore, I shall teach you, Paravakshami. What he will teach is what is the doer in this action, the karma. And it is not a theoretical teaching. It is also going to benefit Arjuna. After having understood the jnanam of the action, he will get the freedom. And what freedom all of us want is from by having happiness, security, and peace. So he will get moksha, and from the ashubhat. Ashubhat means from the samsara. And the next following verse is also telling about what is action, what is inaction, and what is wrong action. So that is all in this verse. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sachin, for giving the whole scene up to this verse. Up to this verse, you brought out, and you brought out the importance of this particular discussion that is going to happen. And of course, everybody got to see you, the invisible timekeeper until now, the one every speaker is afraid of, when you limit the time. We now come to Dr. Anupama. Before you speak, Dr. Anupama, this is a cryptic verse. I'm sure you're going to speak about it. So cryptic that if we are able to understand, you will have a very good feeling about this verse. It may take some time to understand this verse. And Swami Param has spoken in his Bhashyam 8 to 10 hours on this verse only. So you know the depth of this particular verse. Before you begin, we will do a small Zen exercise. We will do an open eye meditation. What is this open eye meditation? You don't have to close your eyes, but just become aware of this moment. Just become sensitive to your body. Become sensitive to all the sounds that you can hear. Be sensitive to your breathing. And let us be very receptive to be able to make the most of, because from 18 until 24, Krishna will unfold what Swami Param says, the climax of the entire Bhagavad Gita, to understand what is Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga. Dr. Anupama, it's your time.
I request Dr. Sachin to give me a little more time. I'm going to exceed by a couple of minutes.
Please, madam.
Can I start, please? Yeah.
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
Karmani akarma yaha pashyet, akarmani cha karma yaha, saha buddhiman manushyeshu, saha yukta kritsna karma krita. So this is called a Granthi shloka. Granthi means a knot, K-N-O-T in this text. Knot here means avidya, because avidya entangles Atma and Anatma so intricately that we often identify ourselves with the lower bird, the Anatma, and get trapped in samsara. If we identify ourselves with the upper bird, the Atma, the message of this verse unfolds easily. The first quarter is Karmani akarma yaha pashyet. Here karma refers to the action falsely attributed to the Atma. We know that Atma is akarta. All karmas belong to Anatma, which is karta. So due to avidya, that is identification with the lower bird, the karma of the Anatma is falsely transferred to the Atma. This is called superimposition or adhyasa. This superimposed karma is here called karmani. So consider a person traveling in a train. Now as the train moves in one direction, the trees on the road appear to move in the opposite direction. This is an optical illusion called parallax. Comparing the movement of the train to that of the trees, we know that the train is actually moving, but the trees, it's a false movement, superimposed. It is a superimposed moving action. We are here discussing this superimposed moving action of the trees alone. An ignorant person thinks that the trees are moving, but a wise man understands that the trees don't move. In this seeming moving action of the motionless trees, the wise man sees motionlessness or inaction. This is the inaction perceived by a wise man on the superimposed action performed by Anatma, or Karmani akarma yaha pashyet, or Atma is ever akarta, therefore a samsari, and Ahankara is ever the karta, therefore a samsari. Now going to the second quarter, akarmani cha karma yaha. Yaha refers to the viveki who sees action in actionlessness. Now, actionlessness is of two types. First, the absolute actionlessness, the nitya, belonging to the Atma, the upper bird. This is unknown to the Ajnani, mind you. This is the nitya akarma of the Anatma. The second is the empirical or the temporary actionlessness, the anityam, which belongs to the Anatma or the Ahankara. This anitya anatma of the Ahankara, or the empirical actionlessness of the Ahankara, is the topic of the second quarter of the verse 18. So we now have to focus on the lower bird. So anitya ahankara is as good, anitya akarma is as good as karma. Why? Because they have very many features in common. So take this instance of a person who on Shivaratri day plans to do puja, go to the temple, and also fasts. So three actions are involved. The first two are he's going to the temple and he's doing puja. These are two karmas. And the third is fasting. This is inaction, actually a karma. So fasting is the akarma and it resembles karma. Why? It involves a karta, it involves an object, a location, the Shivaratri day. All karakas are involved. Therefore, karaka sambandha is common for both karma and akarma. So, pravritti rupa karma and nivritti rupa karma or akarma are similar. The second common feature is both require willful decisions. Ahankara's will is needed to do both puja and even more to fast. Therefore, prayatna, ichcha and purusharthas are involved. The third, akarma has varieties just like karma, that is bahutvam. Consider the panchayamas, the 5 don'ts. All are 5 akarmas. Example, ahimsa, asteyam, brahmacharyam, etc. Fourth, just as karma produces papa punya, akarma can also produce papas and punyas. If we don't perform duties like the swadharma akarmas, we produce papas. Similarly, when we do ahimsa, etc., we get punyas. Therefore, a karma is also a type of karma. Finally, a karma is associated with shastric injunctions, nishedha shodhanas. So, we should know what is dharmic and we should avoid what is adharmic. Therefore, ahankara's akarmas are definitely a type of karmas only. And this akarma also perpetuates samsara. This a wise man can understand. So the third quarter is Saha Buddhiman Manushyeshu. Saha refers to a Viveki who sees actionlessness in the place of action, like the trees from the train, and who sees action in the place of actionless, the fasting. And this is a wise person among all humanity. Saha Yuktaha, he is a yogi. Saha Kritsna Karma Kritaha, meaning Saha Samasta Karma Kritaha, meaning he has completed all duties. Not literally, but this is Krishna's way of glorifying him. Thank you.
Wonderful. You know, it is a summary of some 10 hours of Bhashyam of Swami Param. This verse is like a Brahma Sutra verse. And it looks like it is really complex, but honestly, if you can listen to Swami's Bhashyam on this, in his Moolam talks, that is in his regular Bhagavad Gita talks, he has not gone to explain these quarters, as Dr. Anupama clearly, quarter 1, quarter 2. The last line is actually easy to understand if you can break your head on the 2 quarters of the first line. So what we'll do is we will keep this question now because you know it is difficult to understand. If those who have understood, good. If those who have not understood, we can discuss on it another time. We'll proceed to the next speaker, Smita. From now on, that means the rest of the verses is like in the 2nd chapter when Arjuna was asked this question, Sita Prajna Ka Bhasha, and Krishna answered Prajahati Yada Kaman. See, that is like this 18th verse, which is the sutra verse. The rest of the verses will elaborate exactly what has been said. Smita, it is your turn.
Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Am I audible, Doctor?
Very clear. Please go ahead.
Okay. Yasya sarve samarambhaha kama sankalpa varjitaha jnananikta dagda karmanam tamavuha panditam buddha. Padartha meaning yasya, one who, sarve, all, samarambhaha, initiates actions, kama sankalpa varjita, free from desires and resolve, jnana agni, the actions have been burnt in the fire of knowledge, jnana agnigda, tama, he, ahuha, called, panditam, wise, buddhaha, by sages. As already Doctor has mentioned that verses from 18 to 24 is a commentary on the 18th verse. 18 to 24 verses are also considered as most important verse in fourth, not only in fourth chapter, but whole of Bhagavad Gita. Now, once a jnani has discovered Purnatvam, the question which is usually asked is, will there be a motive in him to do any work? Because generally the actions are born out of dissatisfaction, and therefore both dissatisfaction and the need is motive force. The philosophy of discontentment alone leads to work and accomplishment. Contentment means one will not work at all. This is a misconception of the people. But what Lord Krishna wants to say is, a person can work with contentment. In fact, true services comes or true work comes out only when there is fullness, and person's contribution with fullness will be immensely greater because it does not have any axe to grind. Whatever activity we take, there will be a tinge of selfishness. But Krishna says, a jnani alone can contribute with contentment, and our scriptures say the driving force will be purely of compassion. The greatness of wisdom is the more a person becomes wiser, the more he identifies with the whole world. Ignorance makes mind smaller and selfish. But in case of a jnani, because of universal identification, there is universal compassion, and compassion becomes his nature, just as a mother got an intrinsic love for the child. The scriptures give the example of just heat cannot be separated from fire, just as a light cannot be separated from the sun. Similarly, compassion will be the intrinsic nature of a jnani. Swamiji says, that is why we use the title Anehuta Ahetuk Daya Sindhu, the one who has compassion without any motive. Whatever he can do, he does according to his resources and according to the need of the situation, just like the mother is motivated by the compassion, whatever the child requires and wants, she does it. Therefore, compassion gets crystallized into appropriate action, and that is why Lord Krishna said in 3rd chapter, Lokasangraha Karmani, exactly Bhagwan's Avtara. Now, what is the motive of Bhagwan's Avtara? It is according to the need of the society. In the same chapter, 8th verse explains, Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkratam dharma sansapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. That is, according to the need of society, Bhagwan takes Avtara. Similarly, a jnani is like Bhagwan, does whatever is required according to the need of the surrounding. And therefore, he says, Samarambhaha. A jnani is full of undertaking, as active as an ajnani is. Both ajnani and ajnani are active. Now the question arises, what is the difference between them? Here Lord says, Kama Sankalpa Varjitaha. The common meaning of Sankalpa is resolve or decision. The deeper meaning, whenever we think about an object, there is a constantly label going on in our mind, or whether the object is good or bad. After having gone back and forth, we label something as good. This labeling is called Sankalpa. Kama Sankalpa Varjitaha. That is, Jnani's activity is not caused by discontentment, not caused by smallness. It is not caused by a lack in his mind, no sense of loneliness. As he has said in the 3rd chapter, Naiva tasya krite nartho na krite neha kaschan. Without that activity, he is full. Jnani is karma varjitaha. He is free from desires. Therefore, he is only sankalpa varjitaha. A jnani is free from all kinds of future projections. And why do we project? Because we are not comfortable with ourselves, and this results in expressions of dissatisfied I. Swami Dayananda says, when one rejects oneself and one cannot accept oneself, he cannot accept the world also. He finds fault with everything and everyone. Whereas in case of Jnani, there is no dreaming and projections. He lives in the present day and does whatever he has to and enjoys doing whatever he can do. Therefore, he travels from happiness to happiness and not from unhappiness to happiness. Next is Jnana Nigdhagda Karmana. When a person is in lower I, the karmas and the actions do not produce punyam and papam. Ahankara vimuddatma kartaham iti manyate. Only when I'm identified with ahankara. When there is a sankalpa, then only it produces punyam and papam. Since Jnani does not have the crystallized ego, he does not produce punyam and papam. Jnani does not generate agami karma. Therefore, he says karmanam dagda. Dagda karmanam. All his karmas are destroyed there itself. Swamiji gives an example of the roasted seeds. A roasted seed cannot germinate. Except germination, everything is common between the roasted seed and the other seeds. Similarly, Jnani's ahankara is supposed to be like a roasted seed. He has functional ahankara, but it will not germinate into further samsara. For roasting a seed, fire is used. But for roasting ahankara, we require different type of fire called Jnana Agniha, the fire of wisdom. By the fire of wisdom, Jnani burns down all his agami karma. And next word, tam panditaha. Panda means self-knowledge. Itaha means endowed with. Thus, panditaha means endowed with self-knowledge. Thus, a Jnani whose all actions are devoid of desire and motive, whose works are burnt up by the fire of knowledge, him, the sages call him a wise man. Thank you. Sorry, I took an extra time.
No problem. Smita, thank you very much for a very complete explanation of another difficult verse. This is like yogaha karmasu kausala. How a jnani is able to do work but without incurring any punya or papa. Thank you very much. We go to Dr. Prasanna. Dr. Prasanna, it's your time.
Gurubhyo Namaha. Am I audible, sir?
Very clear. Please go ahead.
Tektva karma phala sangam nitya trupto nirashrayaha karmanya abhipravruttopi naiva kinchit karoti saha. As sir explained in the introduction as well as in the verse 18, the chapter 4 of Gita, verses from 18 to 24, not only summarizes the essence of Bhagavad Gita, but also of Upanishad. And verse 18 is the key verse. Now, Gnani is free from karma, kama, sankalpa, and grief. Na anushochanti. Therefore, he is called liberated, or he is free from setup. Setup is the surroundings. It does not depend on the external situations. Meaning he or she does not get overwhelmed by the situation, which is in contrast to an Agnani. The difference between Agnani and Agnani is of self-knowledge. Now, Lord Krishna says that self-knowledge does not depend on one's status. It does not depend on Varna or any ashrama. Swami Param quotes Shankara's Panchakam, saying even Chandala can enjoy very much the moksha. Chandalostu satudvijostu gururityesha manisha mama, he quotes. So here the verse number 20, 22, 23 and 24 deals with Gruhastha Gnani, and verse 21 deals with Sannyasa Gnani. So this verse is about Gruhastha Gnani, and to me it emphasizes the concept of inaction in action. Now moving on to the verse. Gruhastha by definition has social responsibilities and has to perform Panchamaha Yajnas. And the duties of Gruhastha are like waves in the ocean. They keep coming. And therefore, he is very active. Therefore, the word abhi pravruttaha. Pravruttaha is action, abhi is extra, is very active. So how does he do those actions? Tyaktva karma phala sangam. That means he is detached from fruits of his actions. It is with Ishvara Arpana and Prasada Bhava. It is with this attitude that he is performing his actions. It is with this refined mind he is performing his actions. So there is no agentship, and also there is a distance from the fruits of his actions. He is Nitya Truptaha, meaning he identifies with his higher bird, higher self, which becomes the source of his fulfillment. So he does not do any actions expecting fulfillment from those actions. He is already fulfilled. He has already identified the Anandam. Aham Purnaha Asmi. Swamiji uses a UPS analogy. The Vedic UPS, he says uninterrupted Purnatva supply. And therefore, he is also Nirashrayaha. That means he does not lean psychologically on any external factors. He is therefore independent. Now, psychological leaning is what is important, what causes attachments. And that's what is binding us. Physical dependence is okay as it does not cause any attachment. We have to survive, and physical dependence is okay. And when a Gnani performs duties identifying with his higher bird, then his actions are like Naiva Kinchit Karoti Saha, meaning it is as good as no action. So it seems as if it is actionless. This is true both in terms of psychologically as well as philosophically. Philosophically, because one who has identified with a higher bird, which is Atma, which is a Chaitanya, which is akarta and actionless and ever free from karma. Psychologically, because it's not a dependent, there is no emotional attachment, and therefore doesn't become a burden. Hari Om.
Thank you, Dr. Prasanna. Nice, clear explanation. When I hear all your verses, I hear Swami Param in different voices. It's same Swami Param speaking through different voices. Dr. Rama, it is your time. Another difficult.
Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. The verse 21, it says, Nirashir yata chittatma tyakta sarva parigrahaha shariram kevalam karma kurvan napnoti kilbisham. Yaha nirashihi yata chittatma tyakta sarva parigrahaha kevalam shariram karma kurvan kilbisham na apnoti. The bhavartha of this stanza is rid of desires, mind body controlled, and all passions abandoned. He, by performing mere bodily action, does not incur any sin or samsaram. In this shloka, Sri Krishna explains the action of a sage only for bodily maintenance. The Gnani has realized his identity with Brahman, abiding within all of us as Pratyagatma, and that Atma is Nishkriyaha, that is Abhokta and Akarta. He has no interest in any sort of karma or karma phalam, seen or unseen. He sees futility of all these binding karmas. He renounces all the actions except what is necessary for the minimum maintenance of bodily necessities. He is liberated because of his steady devotion to the knowledge. Shankara Bhashya terms this as Sharira Yatra Matra Cheshtaha. Sri Krishna in this verse uses three adjectives to describe the qualities of a Gnani, that is Nirashihi, Tyakta Sarva Parigrahaha, and Yata Chittatma. Here, the first adjective Nirashihi means he from whom all desires have departed because of Atma Darshanam. Here, Ashihi means desires. Nirashihi is Nirgataha Ashishaha Yasmatsaha, that is Nirashihi, desirelessness. Yata Chittatma, Yata Chitta Atma. There are three words in the compound. Here, Atma means physical body. Sri Shankara Bhashya says, Bhashya Karya Karana Sanghataha. That is, Bhashya Karyam is the physical body. Karana Sanghataha is a set of Pancha Gnanendriyani and Karmendriyani. Then the word Chittam. Chittam is Antahkaranam, mainly intellect, which has the ability to discriminate between Anatma and Atma. Gnani. So now the word Yata Chittatma means a Gnani who has controlled body, mind, sense complex is referred to here. He is a Yata Chittatma. The third adjective is Tyakta Sarva Parigraha. Parigraha is accepting anything given to him. Parigraha also means possessions like house, family, and money, which gives a sense of security. The word Sarvam includes possessions and bonds. Tyakta Sarva Parigraha means all possessions abandoned. The next word is Shariram. Sharirasya Shariram, something belonging to the body. Shariram Kevalam Karma. Shankara Bhasha again states this as Sharira Sthiti Matra Prayojanam, just for the existence or to maintain the stability of the body. Kevalam stresses on merely or barely, and also Abhimana Varjitam, that is without the feeling of I, or Ahankarta or Ahambhokta iti. The sole aim of his karma is to maintain the existence. We can recollect in Bhaja Govindam, a verse says, Sura Mandira Tarumula, etc. And then the third line says, Sarva Parigraha Bhogatyagaha, Kasya Sukam na Karoti Viragaha. The word Sarva Parigraha also is referred to in the Bhaja Govindam Stotram. Next word is Kilbisham. Kilbisham is Papam, that is Anistarupam, that is dislikes, Dharma, Ishtarupancha. For a Gnani, even Papam and Punyam are obstacles in Moksha Marga. He feels Papam is like an iron chain, while Punyam is a golden one. They are the cause of bondage and hence the samsara. Lokadrushtya, he seems to be doing karma. He does not attain karma phalam. Shri Krishna says, Atmagnanam will burn the seeds of karma, like the previous speaker spoke about it. Gnanagni dagdha karmani iti. He attains moksha and kilbisham na apnoti. That is, thus the consciousness in him is released from material plane to revel in the Sachidananda Atma. And Sri Ramakrishna quotes an example. A person traveling in a boat in an ocean, he should be very sure and make sure that the water does not enter the boat, otherwise he will be sinking. Thank you, sir. Namaste.
Namaste, Dr. Rama. Very fluent English in a rendering of this very important verse. The Bhagavad Gita is taught from a grahastha, for a grahastha, by a grahastha. But this is one verse dedicated to a sannyasi. Thank you very much. We go to Dr. Sheila. Dr. Sheila, it's your time.
Namaste, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Sir, can you hear me?
Very clear. Please go ahead.
Yeah. My verse, that is Edra Chalaba Santushtaha Dvandva Tito Vimatsraha Samaha Siddha Siddhaucha Kritvapi Na Nibhadyate. In fact, as already sir said and my friend said, this is one of the important portions of Bhagavad Gita. Krishna condenses all the teachings of all the Upanishads here. He deals with knowledge, which is a solution for all human problems. Yeah, I just want to quote this. I got it as a WhatsApp message in the morning. It is one of the quotes of Muhammad Ali. It's a repetition of affirmation that leads to faith.
Dr. Sheila, I have to unmute yourself.
Sorry, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Can you hear me? Sorry.
Yes, you can.
Yeah, one of the quotes which I want to mention here is of Muhammad Ali. It's a repetition of affirmations that leads to faith, and once that faith becomes a deep conviction, things begin to happen. So what is Karma Yoga? We already know that Karma Yoga gives purity, but not wisdom. So what is wisdom? This has been very well explained by Dr. Anupama in 18th verse, but I repeat it. Wisdom is accept actions at anatma level. Never try to escape from action. and own up anatma, consciousness, which is unaffected. So everything is at peace at that level. So this wisdom is jnana karma sangaha. Now these verses, whatever we are talking now, is for grahastha and sannyasi jnani. So what is jnani? Again, I want to tell that the sannyasi is, jnani is the one who has discovered purnatvam, that is higher I. And higher I is the consciousness, sakshi, and not the lower I, that is ahankara. So jnani does not struggle to make ahankara purnaha. He accepts the ahankara as it is and enjoys doing whatever the ahankara can do. So grihastha, main verses, most of the verses are for grihastha jnani, because he is always in activity because of mahapancha yajnas. So he tries to find what is that fulfillment at the end of the activities or after the activities. So Swamiji says it is like going to take bath in the sea after the waves have subsided, so which never happens. So do with fulfillment, do all the activities with fulfillment. And here, now I remember yesterday sir saying that is right intention for the contentment. Okay, now the words as such, Yadra chala labha santushtaha. That is the jnani, grahastha jnani, he is satisfied, contented with whatever comes as a result of his action. Yadra cha means whatever happens as karma palam. It is known that the events in our life are not totally controlled by us, and there is a present and as well as the past, a future. So, but what I can do is that we are very important contributing factor, but all other factors are controlled by Daivam. Daivam is Prarabdha or Ishvara Icha. So what at last the Gita philosophy is, accept the present and also the past, but work hard for future. Don't worry, that is nothing, you can't change both. So now here Swamiji says that life is nothing but facing a series of pairs of opposites, which he also quotes, that is second chapter Sthita Prajna verses 56 and 57. And now Dvandvatita means the one who has gone beyond the pairs of opposite, like Gunatita, that is who has gone beyond gunas, which means that not allowing the pairs of opposite to disturb the mind. He can't prevent it, he can't, but he can strengthen it, protect it from what? Jnanam, that is knowing the higher I. Dvandva Tvito Vimat Saraha, that is when it goes beyond this, beyond the opposites, there is no competition, there is no depression, there is no jealousy. So he says love and cooperation may be the means of performance and enhancement, not matsaraha. So last, sama siddha asidvacha, that is siddha is success, asiddha is failure. So sama is equanimous. According to Vedanta, success is defined as capacity to manage both success and failures of life. Kratvapi, even though he is extremely active, that is grahastha. If you go to sannyasi, that is he is active in loka sangraha. Na nibadyate. Those actions are no more shackles for him. So for a jnani, all the actions are like game, leela, but for a ajnani, it is a struggle. Thank you, sir. Gurubhyo Namah.
Thank you, Dr. Sheila, for a nice explanation. We go to the last verse of today. This is Radha. It is your time.
Yes. Gata sangasya muktasya jnanavasita chetasaha yajnaya charata karma samagram praviliyate. This is the words given. Am I audible? Hello?
Yes, Radhaji, go ahead.
Okay. So far we have discussed about how to raise above the effects of karma and how to perform the karma from a point of being fulfilled, not from a point of expecting something out of the karma. So here Lord Krishna takes the entire karma to another level. First he says, for a person who has no attachment to anything in the world, either to the body or to the things of the world or to the mind or anything, who has given up identification such a person who is rooted in the knowledge of the self, whatever action he does from a point of yajna. No, one word which comes here is yajna. Now, what is yajna done always for a greater purpose? Now, anything that is done for a greater purpose, the effects does not apply to the individual. Like for example, if somebody goes and fights in the army and he kills somebody from the enemy camp, there is no effect for the person who has done this, simply because he has not killed a person because of a personal vengeance. He has done it for a greater cause, for a country he has done. Now, if I take strength from for the same verse from chapter 3 of Gita, it says, Yajñartatha karmano nyatra lokoyam karma bandhana tadartham karma kaunteya mukta sangha samachara. In verse 9, again Lord Krishna brings the concept of yajna here. He says all the karmas that are not done as yajna will bind you to this material world, which means any action that we do has an effect of a sukha or a dukkha, and we are like a bonded laborers always working for some sukha, and then some dukkha comes, and to remove that again we do something. So this goes on like a circle. So what is the way out of this circle? Krishna says, live of instead of just to enjoy sukha or dukkha. If you work from a standpoint of yajna, then all these effects does not bind you anymore, and the quality of your work also improves because you are doing the yajna for a greater cause and you are doing it for the Lord. So there is a lot of love, lot of efficiency in your work, and you are at your best as far as your ability is concerned. Now I just want to touch upon what is yajna. Yeah, as we have pranas, and those pancha pranas are nothing but yajna, which Dr. Prasanna also touched upon. Then we have the varna vyavastha, which Dr. Ravi Shankar so beautifully spoke about. Then purusharthas, then samskaras, and punarjarma. These are the 5 pancha pranas of Sanatana Dharma, of which yajna is the most important and which comes as the first one. Now there are 5 yajnas like Brahma Yajna, Deva Yajna, Pitru Yajna, Bhuta Yajna, and Manushya Yajna. What yajna means is nothing but Lord Vishnu, which means all the actions done towards the Lord are for a greater purpose, and they will not bind you to any effects of these actions. Yajna means Lord Vishnu, or the sacrificial performances that are meant for satisfaction of Vishnu. Now, the art of doing work is what is discussed in a yajna. One has to work in God consciousness. That is, every time we do an yajna, we make an offering. We are saying, Suryaya idam namama Suryaya swaha, which means this does not belong to me, this belongs to Surya, or this belongs to the Lord. So whatever we are doing, we are saying, this does not belong to me, I am giving it off to the Lord. So by practicing this, in the olden days, I remember my grandmothers and all, whatever they do in the house, and even if they give something to somebody, they'll always say Krishna Arpanam, Krishna Arpanam. This word used to be constantly used in a household. This practice gives us 2 benefits. It saves us from the reaction of work, because every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So when we do offering all the time to the Lord, we are not keeping the benefits with us. So we are relieved from the karma bandhana. And second, our quality of work elevates to a transcendental service to the Lord. It does not just stay as an action anymore. It becomes that I am serving the Lord 24/7. I'll quickly sum up this beautiful words. because this is going to climax in the next words, Brahmarpanam. I think Chaitanya is going to do it tomorrow. The first point of summary for this verse is outer action and inner renunciation. Offering all to the Lord, it's a Krishnarpana Bhava or a Samarpana Bhava, working for a greater cause, whereby the quality of our work will have affection for the Lord. Best work, best of the ability and best of efficiency comes in this. And it frees us from all the effects of all the actions and elevates all the actions to the service of the Lord. So when we are constantly working and constantly offering to the Lord always our actions, the underlying takeaway is we're continuously thinking of the Lord. We're continuously living in the consciousness of the Lord. Here, the effects of karma, punya, papa, everything automatically drops off because you're no more bothered about the actions and their effects. You're continuously in the consciousness of the Lord. And this is a takeaway for this verse. Thank you.
Thank you, Radha, for a nice explanation of all the verses of the Gita, including this, where karma is brought out as yajna. With that, we conclude an important section of the 4th chapter. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.